Hey, good morning, change makers, and all of those who did the 5-day challenge to activate your gift. I felt impelled to get on here this morning and check in with you guys and see how you're doing. There's been a lot of new energy coming onto the planet, and it's exciting, and people are lighting up, and we had this huge surge of illumination, and what's also happening is a big contraction. So a lot of people are getting whacked with heavy energy. The new moon brought in this sort of kind of wobble effect. So if that's happening to you, it's happening to a lot of us. So I hope that might explain some things. If you're more curious about that or have specific questions, please ask me. A lot of the times I'm not exactly sure how much to share because I'm not sure what people are really ready to hear. The truth can be extremely shocking to people. So if you're starting to wake up to new realities and really take off the veils or the blinders or the rose-colored glasses, and you're seeing things that are a little bit disturbing or somewhat curious, please know that this is a safe space to talk about that, and I want to make myself available to those who are starting to see things that other people, like their friends and family, might not be able to relate to. I want to share a little bit about how I activated my gifts and how I got into doing the work that I do now. And it might take me a minute to share it. It's a long story. It started a long time ago and a lot of things have happened. So I might have to do it in 2 parts, but let's just see, because I have an appointment soon. But I felt really called to share it with you this morning. So I talk about activating the innate gifts. So when I was really young, like in kindergarten, I realized that school didn't have a lot to teach me, that I already felt that I knew everything I needed to know, and that school was a big waste of time and a programming structure to actually make me disown things that I already knew. And it really disturbed me. I struggled a lot in school and with my teachers because I felt that they didn't believe what they were teaching. There was no congruency in what I was learning. I would read the history books and question everything, like who wrote this and how do they exactly know that this happened? Because somewhere inside me, I felt that it wasn't true, or it wasn't totally true. And there were a lot of lies. I felt the same way when I read the Bible as a child. I had a lot of questions about why things were written the way that they were. It seemed very skewed to a male perspective, a white man's perspective, and it didn't feel real. And in fact, as a very young child, it angered me and disturbed me. So I fought a lot against the structure, the program that I was put into. And so I was sort of marked as a disruptor and watched by interesting people since a young age. And when I was 21, I had a pretty profound awakening experience where I found my soul name as Aeon. And the minute I recognized myself as Aeon and started to call myself that, and then introduced myself as Aeon, things began to shift very, very rapidly. I had left the country when I left my family's house when I was 17 and have been living alone. So I'd already been on my own for a number of years and, paying my own rent, taking care of myself as a full-on adult. But I felt that there was something I needed to do that I wasn't going to learn in a college or in an education system. And so I started traveling the world with a backpack and very little money, and following synchronicity all over the planet, looking for my gift, looking for that thing I was supposed to do. I would waitress. I was a bank teller at one point, but I knew that there was something I was being guided somewhere. So when I heard the soul name of Aeon, it ignited something in me, and that's where my life really took a radical shift. So I started waking up every morning at 3:33 on the dot, and I would sit up in bed and look out the window, and I would see this red star pulsing, and I would just receive a transmission, and I knew it was telling me something. And honestly, it felt like it was my future self or another aspect of me on another planet informing me of my mission. And I was married at the time to a guy I had met in Israel on my travels, and he would always wake up when I would be sitting there kind of shaking, getting this transmission, and he noticed it was 3:33, and so we had this thing about this number, 3:33. And what happened right after that, during that time, so this was happening for 6 months. Every single day I would wake up and receive this transmission. And during those 6 months, we started a new company called Web Design. It was the first web design group in the world. We were one of the first 5 companies in San Francisco, and we thought we'd coined the name. We thought that we had just awakened to something, which we had, right? And nobody really understood us. People were like, okay, you guys are really trippy people. We were both very cyberpunked out with strange haircuts and piercings and the whole, very on the edge look and feel about us. But we knew what we were doing, and we had this information, and we were both, college dropouts and didn't have any education to back up what we were doing. But there was no education for what we were bringing to the world. Within a few months of putting our stuff out there and really figuring out how, it was the first days of HTML. He learned HTML coding. I was receiving larger information about how things fit together and what the internet was here to guide us. I saw it as a 4th dimensional space opening up, and a capacity to learn telepathy and all of these other gifts of our human potential and our time-space continuum that we hadn't been aware of. So we started exploring with the internet back in the days where, it was really the Wild West. Nobody was out there, and the few that were out there, we would interact with them. And this was the early 90s. So we had this hackers collective, and we got into hacking the X files, because since I had a lot of experiences as a child with ETs and other dimensional beings, we were looking for proof. So we did, in fact, we're a team of about 1,000 hackers that went in and got the X files and printed them out. And that's when a lot of really interesting things started, where, the black helicopters started flying above, and we were targeted as people to pay attention to, but from who knows where, right? But we realized people were watching us. And soon after that, we were approached by some Japanese businessmen who had flown from Japan and tracked who had put this information online that we had placed there. And he said, how did you get a graphic? How did you do this? And we explained it to him, and he said, well, I'm a headhunter for Matsushita, which was, who owns Panasonic, and they wanted us to develop for their company. They were trying to figure out anyone who knew how to get onto the internet. This was very early days. So me being my ambitious entrepreneurial self and my smart, 21-year-old sass, I was like, okay, well, you're gonna have to pay us a lot of money to do that. And they said, sure, and they did. So very quickly after that, all within that first few months of opening our business, well, this is what launched the business of web design. We had one of Japan's leading corporations as our main client. And soon after that, they just kept finding us, and we became developers for Microsoft and Sega. MTV hired us at one point, and we were doing a lot of secret developments that never came out to the world, like for Netscape and for Microsoft. Technology, we were testing technology that pushed the bandwidth. So I've been there with the internet as it grew. We did the first video over the web, the first storefront. We were working with avatars and virtual realities, and then I got recruited by the head of computer science at CalTech to develop the software for some artificial intelligence that had been released from a government program, a project that we finally had access to bring it out into the world. So I worked on that for a number of years and moved to Japan and worked with Japan's leading execs in tech, and as well as their fashion industry and entertainment industry. So my gift as it woke up, I found myself at tables with really important people in the world. And here I was, just this young sort of punk rock chick who really had my own agenda of expanding into human potential. And it was really interesting what doors opened to me the more I accepted my innate knowing. So all of the things that I learned and all the places that I found myself in was not something that I could have learned from a book or from going to school. Things got really different after my father passed away in 2003, along with my spiritual teacher, and there were 9 deaths that year. And that's when the veils ripped off, and I started to see beyond this realm with my eyes open. And from that point on, my life took a radical shift. I started to realize that all of these execs that I was working with were really playing this power dynamic. The technology that I was working on, I wanted it to help humanity, or to bring us closer together, or to take away the remedial tasks and the grunt labor. But what I found was that getting this technology in the wrong hands was actually disturbing our peace. It was they were using it to police people or to track people in weird ways, and I realized I don't want to be a part of, especially the artificial intelligence, how they started to manipulate it and use it kind of against the people, or to just kind of for their own greed and personal power over. And that really disturbed me, and I went into a deep depression about how am I aligning with these kind of powerful people. I thought that I could help them make the world a better place. So I made a big shift. I went back and finally got my degree in school, but I went to an alternative college to study consciousness, healing, and ecology. And I really got into the study of sustainable communities and intentional communities. So in 2000, I had started to seed some intentional communities in Japan and found that it was really hard to get people to work together and collaborate and find ways of solving conflict. And in 2003, I started to bring this intentional community out. I tried 14 times. I found myself in India in 2005. 2006, I moved to India, and I lived there for 8 years. And while living in India, I got to work with and partnered with a large spiritual guru to create a school for spiritual sciences. And what was really fun for me being in India and meeting that particular guru is he was the first person to really honor my gift of sight and to tell me, okay, it's time for you to start teaching and sharing. And up until that point, I was really hiding backstage. I was hiding. I liked to be the person whispering to the person in power, but I didn't want to own my gifts or declare them because I felt people really couldn't handle what I was seeing or handle the fact that, you know, I was receiving my information from a star or from star system or from interdimensional beings. I'm telling you guys all this. I realize I have to leave in a few minutes. So I'm telling you this to give you a little bit of insight into what drives me and what brought me to this point in my life, but also because I know some of you in this 5-day challenge really activated your gift. And when I say you activated your gift, if you saw yourself light up as that sun, as that star seed, what happens with that is gifts get unlocked. So you might find yourself doing things, feeling things, traversing different landscapes, timelines. And when that happens, you really want to be ready for the changes and the development and the what's being asked of your soul. So we all came here for a purpose. We have a mission. And those of you who are waking up to seeing yourself as energy or as other archetypal figures, or you have a directive, a purpose here, how are you going to harness that? How are you going to bring that forward? I opened the school because I was searching and craving mentors and found them in really random places in different parts of the world. And I was asked to come back and bring this information and help guide those who are waking up quickly. You might feel that no one can understand you, or that you're out there having to figure it out on your own. And I know how hard that was for me. I made a lot of mistakes, and I learned and had a lot of initiations that were really hard and honestly quite terrifying as I was traversing different levels of consciousness. And I'm really, really grateful and blessed for all of those guides and teachers that did come into my life to confirm and help me stay the course and help me ground into who I know myself to be. So I'm talking really fast. I'm trying to get a lot of information out. There's a lot more I can say. I might do another part to this just to round it off and give you more of a full picture of what brought me to this work. But having been a guide and a mentor and a healer to some of the world's most powerful people, I see the struggle that everyone has when they're bringing their genius out. And I know it also for myself, and how important it is to have a mentor, a guide, and to have a community of people that understand you, recognize you, see you, and can have these deeper conversations with you from a soul to soul level. So if you're looking for that kind of support, if you're ready to make the leap and jump into a year-long process with me, my school is open. We start the first semester next Saturday. All the details are in the comments there, or sorry, in the description of this video. And today is the last day to get on my calendar to talk to me. So schedule a call with me if you're wanting to get some support, and if you're interested in going on this year-long journey with me and be mentored throughout your whole process of awakening, and to really ground in your own authentic presence. So the link to my calendar is there. When you sign up to get a call with me, you're actually, that is your application. I don't take calls with people who are not in soul alignment with me. So if I reject your request for a phone call, then it means that my services in the school aren't a good fit. But if I do accept it, I will notify you, and I would love to talk to you. So we're here to reconnect our soul groups. So I hope to meet some of you in person, or at least through live video chat. And the school is completely virtual. People from all over the world and all different walks of life have joined. So thanks for listening. And if you have any questions, please post in the comments. All right, take care.